Um, okay,
Texas and
we
Tennessee.
could move into preview some of these games. We'll jump right into a game that we mentioned multiple times already, Ohio State, Michigan. Number 3 Michigan goes to Columbus to play number 2 Ohio State. Minus 7.5 spread. The over under is 57 on this one. A lot of hype around this game, being that two top 3 teams, number 2 and number 3. I think this is only the second time in history that it's these kind of stakes with both teams being undefeated coming into this game and the rankings and all that. The
Right.
other time was like 2014 or something like that. So yeah, huge game. I mean, obviously, look, two of the biggest fan bases in all of college football here.
Right.
And yeah, a very heated rivalry. I mean, I know if you go on Twitter, you go through message boards, the stuff that's,
That said is just
yeah,
crazy.
we got people talking about last year everyone called Ohio State soft because they lost the game, and but there's there's like misinformation beats where people say CJ Stroud can't play in the zone, but then you look at the stats, he threw for almost 400 yards.
Right.
Then you have Michigan, who's been losing the series forever, acting like they're, you
They're
know,
so good and
yeah. And then, Ohio State fans like kind of just can't really say nothing because they lost the game last year. So they don't have
yeah,
bragging
they don't have
rights.
no bragging
They're
rights
just, they're
exactly.
just, they're just stewing in anger, like hoping for the games
Hoping
to
just to
come.
have revenge
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
this game and what's interesting too is like I mean for not for nothing Ohio State I mean we talk about bragging rights it's like if you look at the past 5 6 years Harbaugh hasn't been able to do anything to Ohio State, let alone bring the program up to what it's at now. And
Hmm.
it's like Michigan, like granted, Michigan's playing great football, but throughout the season, we've kind of even seen them sometimes play down to their competition. Where it's like Ohio State, they've pretty much blown out almost every team they come across. They've had maybe 2 games. I guess you could say I mean, you could say last week
Yeah.
with
You got Maryland, you
right.
got Northwestern.
But
So
I mean, I don't know. I think Ohio State takes care of business, and especially since they lost last year, they have a. I think Ryan Day has a chip on his shoulder. He wants to go out and prove that he could win a national title, and this is going to be a statement win for him for sure.
yeah, I think this program, I think Ohio State's going to be laser focused. I mean, I don't think Michigan is not going to be focused,
Yeah,
but
no, for
I
sure.
don't think there's any question that the caliber of players they have at Ohio State is greater than what they have at Michigan, right? So this is, when you get these type of setups, this is a game that Ohio State is supposed to win with how the recruiting history has been.
Right.
And then you look at the style of offenses, right? And even defenses. Right? Michigan has a good defense this year. Ohio State too. Ohio State, top 10 in most of these categories after bringing Jim Knowles in. Um, but you look at how Michigan wins games. They're winning by running the football. Okay, if you run the football, and by the way, the weather for this game is looking to be like in the 50s and at Columbus, which is almost like summertime weather for these people at this time of year.
Right.
No precipitation of any kind, so it looks to be like perfect weather. So you're gonna tell me CJ Stroud gets to go in there and air the ball out against Michigan, who's gonna try to run the
Run the
ball.
ball and
Not
just
to
not be able
mention,
to
not to
pass.
mention, both teams are banged up at running back. Right? Ohio State has Trevion Henderson, who tried to go last week, couldn't finish the game. Mayan Williams didn't even play last week; he was banged up. They had to go, their third string Dallin Hayden, who had a good game for them. But he's the healthiest one, and this is where the recruiting helps them because they have a guy in Dallin Hayden who's able to run for over 100 yards and multiple touchdowns in a game where they need him to step up. Michigan, on the other hand, Blake Corum got injured last game, and he's their entire offense. And there's been talk that they don't even know if he's going to play. Most likely he's going to play regardless.
Right.
Whatever they got to shoot him up with to get on the field is they'll do it. But you can't. You could get on the field, but if you're not effective,
Then it's
then
there's no
good luck,
point.
right? Donovan Edwards, their second string running back, who's a pretty good running back. He's been injured. He couldn't even go last week. After that, they don't have anything. It's not like Ohio State where it's like, okay, next man up, next man up, next man up. The recruiting hurts them there. They don't have the ability to keep up if Ohio State really gets on a roll and starts putting up a bunch of points.
Right.
That's all you have to do against some of these teams.
Yeah.
We talk about this with teams across all levels of football, right? If you're a team that plays defense, runs the ball, San Francisco 49ers, okay, that's good. But if you let up too many points against
Then you
a
have to
team like
try
the
to
Chiefs, then
catch
you
up.
can't catch up. You don't have the offense to really put up that kind of you know those kind of offensive numbers. So, but yeah, this is a 7.5 point spread. My guess is Ohio State covers the spread. And I don't think this will be a blowout win, but I can see them winning by like double digits or something like that. Maybe even if it comes down to it, um, I think it would be. I think there's potential for this to be an easier win than what they got at Maryland, where they were kind of ahead and then got some, late stuff happen late, to kind of juice up the final score, the box score there. I think this, should be an even easier win than that, where they probably win by double digits, not in super easy fashion. I think it'll still be a fun, interesting back and
Yeah,
forth
it'll
game
be
at
a
some
gritty
point.
game for
But I
sure.
think Ohio State will be able to pull away enough where the game isn't in that much danger for most of it. We can move on and talk about a number 7 USC going to Notre Dame, and we mentioned this game earlier. Crucial for USC. If they can win out, they'll probably be in the playoffs, and this is step one. Step two would be their Pac-12 championship, but yeah, tough matchup for USC. Just that Notre Dame's been playing well lately, right? They've kind of been peaking at the right time for this game. Um, I would still favor USC to win here. The spread is -5. I think they probably cover this, but I wouldn't be entirely surprised if Notre Dame found a way to pull it upset here either.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Notre Dame, being that they are at home. They don't have much to lose and all to gain, where USC has a lot to lose. This may put a little bit pressure on Caleb Williams. We saw how he can kind of be a little bit in over his head at times, and with Lincoln Riley, I mean, I think he'll have everybody ready, but I think Notre Dame, they play, it's weird because they're not what we thought they were in the beginning of the season, but I think they're capable of playing up to the competition of other opponents like a USC. And I think, I don't know, I mean, if you're at home and it's a big game, I mean, Notre Dame has versed USC plenty of times.
Every year.
Yeah, so it's like they're do I think they blow them out or anything like that? No, not at all. But I think Notre Dame definitely puts up a fight.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. This is a similar situation to what we were kind of talking about. Well, a team that's defense oriented and leans on the run game versus a team with a more dynamic offense that throws the ball around. Clearly USC is likes to light up the scoreboard,
Right.
put up tons of points, lots of passing yards. Notre Dame is gonna really control time of possession, try to clamp you down on defense. Um, yeah, look, like I think probably the most likely outcome in this game is USC is able to put up the points that Notre Dame can't. But like you said, Notre Dame, this game is not too big for them. They're trying to continue to make a name for themselves. They're not looking ahead to anything, right?
Right.
This is as big as it gets for Notre Dame right now. The last game of the season, they get to rip the playoff chances out of a USC team and make a statement, to kind of build momentum going into next year. So yeah, like you said, it certainly wouldn't be surprised if Notre Dame found a way to really make Caleb Williams have a tough night and be able to control possession, play good defense, and come out with a big win here at home with their home fans. I'm sure going crazy. Last game we'll preview is another game we kind of touched on a little bit. South Carolina, who we know, really took it to Tennessee last year out of nowhere. Last
Last
week
week,
out of
right.
nowhere. They go and they play their rival number 9 Clemson. All these games have one or two teams that we're talking about trying to make these playoffs. Clemson being the team here, and man, big spread -14.5 for Clemson.
Yeah, that's
Clemson
crazy.
did have a pretty nice performance last week. score was, it was a big score difference game wise. It probably should have been even bigger. This is kind of almost the opposite of what kind of has been happening to Clemson this year, where even when it looks like they won by say 20 points, doesn't really feel like they dominated the game. Last week they did. They completely dominated. Defense showed up.
Yeah,
Offense was clicking. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of Clemson we get this week. It'll be interesting to see what kind of South Carolina we get
Yeah,
this week.
they
Uh,
just came off a big win, and momentum is a huge thing in sports, as we all know. So
yeah, this is something that I think Clemson is probably not looking ahead as much as some of these other teams. I think some of these other teams feel so close to the playoff. I think the odd position that Clemson has been in, where they've been kind of getting more negative media and people kind of talking about how they're not living up to certain expectations more. I think they're probably a hungrier team, and I think that might help them in the present for this game. I don't know if they cover this 14.5 point spread.
right.
That's a bit iffy for me. That'll depend on how they show up, if their offense happens to be clicking that day or not. But this is a game that I do think they'll be able to win. And I think they'll be able to do enough to you know I certainly wouldn't see South Carolina putting up 63 against Clemson.
Yeah, that's
Let's
insane.
yeah. So yeah, this feels like more of like a 30-20 type of game to me. If they have really dominant performance, maybe 35-14 or something like that. But it does feel like this is a game that Clemson should be able to handle.
Mhm.
And it'll kind of just be more on will they cover the spread or not, and by how much. So, but yeah, we'll see how that goes.